Oh my
Nobody
goodness.
wants anyone to know because there's such a stigma about women and age. And, we have an uphill battle. Let's be honest. We have to do everything bigger and better.
Mhm.
And so they're worried it'll change their careers. They're concerned, if they're in the dating and out there and they're over 50, they have to pretend they're young. And there's a lot of pressure on women to be fine all the time.
Welcome, everybody, to the Life is Now, Do It While You Can show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a life coach for women over 50. And today we have a very special guest, Ellen Dolgen, and she's a fearless leader of the Menopause Revolution. And I am so excited because, number one, she is the first expert that I've ever interviewed on menopause. And she's going to share with us today how to take back your power in menopause. So welcome, Ellen. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you. I love it. I love that you're trying to help women lead a happy, healthy life.
Yeah. So, how did you first become an expert in menopause?
Well,
Because I'm sure you didn't start out going, I want to be an expert in menopause.
Yeah, this is not what I majored in college, trust me. But I tell people I'm in the vagina business just because it's more exciting than the menopause business and people listen, a little
Oh
bit
my
more.
God, that's
But
hilarious.
yeah, even at dinner parties, when you go around the table, what do you do? I'm in the vagina business, and it's like everyone's interested.
Yeah. I'm sure men are probably like, what?
Totally. But like many people, I call this my encore career. And it came out of my own story, which was simply I was in my 40s and suddenly my life started to change because I started to experience severe brain fog. Like, I'm not talking where are my keys or, your glasses are on your head. I'm talking, I would be mid sentence in a business meeting and I would draw blank, complete blank.
God.
And it was frightening. I mean, really frightening. And of course, like most women, I thought, oh, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. It's just, I'm tired. But you know what? I wasn't tired. And it kept happening over and over again, not just in business, but also socially. Then my next symptom was insomnia. My next symptom was this horrible highs and lows, like PMS squared. And I thought I was losing my mind, actually. And I really was trying to keep it together, but everybody around me was concerned. But luckily for me, I found myself in the kitchen of a retired gynecologist. And I was helping with the dishes and I started crying for no reason. And he came over to me, he goes, Ellen, what's going on? I said, I don't know, but I think I'm in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. And I told him I can't think, I can't sleep, I'm having emotional highs and lows. Like, why am I crying? I just started crying. I'm drying a wine glass. It was crazy. And he puts his arm around me and he says, Ellen, I don't think it's dementia. You're in perimenopause. And of course, like most women in their 40s, I heard menopause, and I thought, oh, really? You think I'm old? I was so annoyed with him. Like, I would have rather had dementia at that point, which is crazy. And he said, Ellen, calm down. I didn't say menopause. And it's not about age. You're not old. I said, do you think I'm that old? And he goes, you're not old? What is old anyway? He said, perimenopause is the 6 to 10 years that of stages that a woman goes through with symptoms before they reach menopause. So there you go. He helped me. Lucky for me, he mentored me. He helped me learn about it. He taught me everything about it. I got a menopause specialist. I read every book. I did all this stuff. And then I was so mad that no one educated me. I wasted like 4 years. Imagine, right? 4 years of being a mess.
Yeah.
I just was furious that the sisterhood and my mother and my aunts and my health class, nobody talks about this. So
Yeah.
that's why I started out writing a book that I was trying to find, and I self-published it. It got picked up by Hyperion Voice, a division of Disney ABC, and I repurposed the book, and then I now have a free ebook, and now I have a free menopause course, and I've been doing this for 20 years.
So this is really interesting because, you saying that you brought this up to this OBGYN in a kitchen who was retired, and he said to you what was happening. The reason why I say it's interesting is because this was what you said 20, 30, 20, 25
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
And I think about that and I'm like, no one talked to me about menopause. Like you said, my mom never talked about it, which okay, she didn't even talk to me about sex, so I don't fault
I
her.
barely got that too. I just barely
Yeah,
got that too. Yeah.
exactly. But my OBGYN, who I saw every single year,
Yeah.
never the word never even came out of her mouth of, "You're this age and you may start experiencing X, Y, and Z." Not once. It was my annual checkup, do the, pap smear, do the breast check, and that's it. And I didn't know. I didn't even know what perimenopause was, let alone menopause and postmenopause. And luckily for me, I didn't get like crazy hot flashes. But you know, I didn't get any education on this. And so why is it way back when, why were people not talking about this?
Well, good question. And again, um, I'm thrilled that we are now. So thank you again for doing it. And there are other people out there talking a lot now, which I'm so happy about. But still, so many women don't have a clue, just so you know. Not everybody has time to be on social media or is able to sit and read a book or do any of these things, listen to podcasts. A lot of women are starting to, which is good. But
Yeah.
here's the problem. The reason why a lot of women weren't getting any help is because doctors really weren't getting educated on it. And so
Yeah.
your OBGYN might not have had any training on that. Johns Hopkins did a study on that, and it was an incredibly small amount of doctors are getting training.
Mhm.
And so they don't have a clue. They're trained on the baby years and all of those years. They're not trained on the menopause years and the post-menopause years. Well, this is kind of changing now because we have menopause experts thanks to the North American Menopause Society. We have certified doctors now, and there's a lot of experts that are speaking out on social media now, and that is so great. But that's partly why. The other reason is the shame of being old, the stigma. Nobody wants to admit they're in menopause because people associate it with old age. I did.
Mhm. Right.
That's why I was so insulted that he thought I was in perimenopause. I didn't even hear the word peri. I didn't know what that was anyway, but I was like, you're saying I'm in menopause. How dare you? And so that's part of it.
That's so crazy to me, and you're right. I feel like menopause is having its moment in the last several years
Mm.
where people like you are stepping up to the plate and really shedding a light on it and saying, "Hey, this is an issue and you're not crazy, and these are some of the things that are gonna happen to you, and here's what you can do about it." But here's what I find really weird is just I think it was, like, about 2 years ago, even one of my clients told me she went to her doctor to talk about menopause, and he couldn't help her. And I was like, "What?" Even today, it's so crazy. So, my
No
question for you.
education.
What's that?
He had no education.
Oh, it's crazy to me. So,
Mhm.
for those and I know I'm not the only one who was uneducated on this subject. So can we start off with the basics of what are some menopause symptoms to look out for?
Okay, well, let me give you a little 101.
Okay.
You know, Cliff note message. Number one, as I mentioned, perimenopause is the first stage, right? Usually the symptoms for perimenopause are your period starts to get irregular. You start to experience things you've never experienced before, like I did, brain fog. You could have hot flashes. You could have, muscle aches. You can have, there's over 30 symptoms of menopause. There's so many, you guys. A lot of them are emotional. I have a menopause symptoms tracker on my website that's free. Download it. It divides them between physical and emotional. You can start having depression. You can start having serious mood swings like I did. All things that you just never had before. Or like if you experience some of these things, anxiety and things, maybe depression, they can get exacerbated with your hormones changing in perimenopause. So when your hormones start changing, you're going to get lots of these symptoms. And the period becomes quite a drama queen, like it comes and goes. And you never know sometimes. But the thing I want your audience to understand, or your listeners, is that until you've been without a period for 12 consecutive months, and that means not one drop of any blood, you can still get pregnant. So if your period has stopped for 6 months and then you have a little drop of blood, you have to start the clock over.
Oh, wow.
Because you can get pregnant. So, I know we all like to open our windows and let those, Kotex with wings fly out and throw out our tampons, but I can tell you what happened to me. I was 6 months without a period. I had a barbecue in my backyard. I was in my favorite white dress, and all of a sudden she showed up and she decided to go everywhere. It was a mess. So OxyClean, my favorite friend, I can tell you, that dress went in a bowl of OxyClean. It was perfect. But it can happen. So 12 consecutive months without a period, you're in menopause. And then no cap and gown ceremony. Sorry. I don't even think there's a Hallmark card, nothing. The next day, you're in postmenopause. That's it, the rest of your life.
Oh my God, you're so funny. A graduation cap. You mean no one's throwing me a party that I made it 12 months?
No. I think we should look at that. The sisterhood should start like making it a national holiday or something. I don't know. When we graduate to menopause, we should all be able to like not work and not take care of anybody. And we should just be in a spa somewhere. I don't know.
Well, that's one thing I do not miss. I do not miss my period. I was like more than thrilled. I was like, great, you're done. I am over you. Okay. So this is so funny. So, what would you say? Because honestly, one of the symptoms that you mentioned, I honestly didn't learn about until a year ago, and I'm 60 now. So, a year ago, I learned about brain fog, and I was like, "That's a symptom of menopause." I'm like, "Oh." I didn't realize that had to do with menopause when I've had it. Luckily, I have it sometimes I don't, and I've used supplements to help with that. But what is the number one symptom that you think people really don't know about that is like that's menopause and people don't know about it? Everyone hears about the hot flashes, but is there something that people don't know about?
Well, I think, like you said, hot flashes are the number one. Everybody knows that. But I think brain fog is one of the most common, also unspoken symptom because no one wants to admit that they can't think clearly, because we're working, most of us are in the workforce. If we're working at home or we're working at a workplace or we're doing both, and we're big multitaskers, right? And women are huge multitaskers. Men see one light. Men see one light. We see like 7 to 13 at a time. So it's the most disturbing one, but also one that people try to hide from accepting. Your hormones have a lot to do with how your brain functions. So when your hormones are plummeting, it does affect that. Hormones affect your heart health. I don't think people realize that. Some people think that, they're having heart issues when actually it's hormonal issues that are causing the arrhythmia. So there are a lot of celebrities have had that happen. Also, vaginal dryness, not talked about enough. That's a big symptom. And, reoccurrent UTIs and bladder issues, incontinence, all hormonal imbalance. So
That's interesting that you just said incontinence, because I would think a lot of women who have had children think the reason why is because they've had children of the incontinence.
yeah, well, I'm sure part of it is because of if they gave vaginal childbirth, they can have some issues. But a big part of it is because they call it GSM, and those are the genitory symptoms of menopause that are affected by hormone declining. And
Yeah.
so, there's help with all that. And that's honestly why I've been speaking out for 20 years. I've been on all the talk shows. I'll travel menopause is my sweet spot. You want me to talk about menopause? I'm there. So, I just want to educate the sisterhood because you don't have to suffer in
Yeah.
silence.
Well, and it's interesting that you said going back to the brain fog and how some women will, be ashamed of that and they don't want to admit it. When you were saying it, I kept thinking, oh my God, uh, this didn't happen for me, but imagine this could happen for a lot of women where they think, is this the onset of dementia or
Like me.
Alzheimer's? And so then the fear comes up. So, how can a woman determine whether it's menopause or dementia? I mean, are there any signs that it's one or the other, or you got to go see a doctor?
Well, there's a difference between menopause and dementia because dementia is you don't know who you are, right? And it's not the case when the brain fog comes in for menopause. The menopause is, your brain may freeze for a minute, or you can't keep track of things anymore. There is a big difference. However, the most important thing I think is to understand that you need to find a menopause specialist. And if you start having, like, if you download my symptoms tracker from ellendolgen.com and you see marks on that, you get yourself to a menopause specialist. You have to go see a specialist. I mean, I really have to emphasize this because not every gynecologist, like I've told you, is trained in menopause.
Yeah.
Maybe someone in their office is specializing in menopause, but you must check to see if your doctor has received specific training in menopause and is keeping up with the latest information and studies. Big difference between somebody who had a half hour of it. No,
Yeah.
that's not good.
That's a really good point, because I think there's a misconception that just because they're a doctor in
Right.
female health, gynecology is, oh, they would know. But you're right. I mean, I didn't know this. Not everybody knows. But does it have to be a doctor, or can it be a menopause expert like yourself that can help someone?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I help like you do, inspire people to get the right help and to do some things that will be helpful to them. And one
Right.
of those things is find a menopause specialist. I'm not a menopause specialist. So, the most important thing, and that's why I created my course,
Hmm.
Fearless Vagina, a crash course in mastering menopause, because you got to have a fearless vagina to advocate for yourself, and it's free. And there are 5 modules, 20 minutes long. And I'll tell you how to find a menopause specialist. I'll tell you where to ask that doctor. I'll tell you how to keep track of everything because guess what? None of us have been educated on how to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And you may have 15 minutes, maybe 20 if you're lucky. So you got to come in organized and ready to go, just like you're organized and ready to go when you manage your house or your career. And it's hard to do that for ourselves because we usually are the last on the list, We take care of
Yeah.
ourselves last.
Yep, that's exactly my audience is they've put for years everybody first, whether it's their kids, their husband, their families, and or their job if they don't have children or a husband, and they've put themselves last and then they're suffering in silence. Why do you think it is that women are can be so afraid to ask for help and then they just suffer in silence and they think this is not normal, but I don't know what to do about it.
Well, partly because it's been so for so long, no one's talked about it. By the way, women have called me crying from their desk at work.
Oh,
I can't think. I don't know what to do, Ellen. I found your website. Can you help me? They're CEOs.
my
Nobody
goodness.
wants anyone to know because there's such a stigma about women and age. And, we have an uphill battle. Let's be honest. We have to do everything bigger and better.
Mhm.
And so they're worried it'll change their careers. They're concerned, if they're in the dating and out there and they're over 50, they have to pretend they're young. And there's a lot of pressure on women to be
Yeah.
fine all the time.
Yeah. And yeah, and we're strong, independent women. And so the last thing we want to do is go, oh my God, yeah, I'm having this issue. I'm not feeling great. And we don't, a lot of us don't want to ask for help, right?
Exactly.
So this is for me and my audience who are postmenopausal, which full disclosure, ladies, I just heard about this when I was on her website this week. I had no idea there was postmenopause. I was like, what? So I would love for you to share, Ellen, what are some symptoms of postmenopause and what's our next steps in that area? Oh, God.
Well, the good news is a lot of times when you're in the postmenopausal frame, in other words, you've been without a period for 12 months, and some of those symptoms will subside, okay? But some won't without some help. And there's lots of different help. You can do hormone therapy. Most women do bioidentical hormone therapy, and it works wonders for brain fog, for bone health, for heart health, and also for symptoms and longevity. Some women are afraid of hormones, which because they're still listening to the old reporting of the Women's Health Initiative in 2002, and they haven't been listening to the over 20 years of reporting, that has been out there. I mean, there's a lot of reporting right now out there, or 18 years, I guess, of reporting that trying to tell you that they've studied those women and this is what they found out.
Mhm.
They've actually studied 10 million women who were Medicare patients, and they studied the women who stayed on hormone therapy and the women who went off after the 2002. And this came out in 2025. So, do the math. I'm not good with math. How many years later? And I hate math. And they found that those women had, greater mortality, and yes, and less cancer, better bone health, better heart health, all kinds of stuff. But women are still afraid. So it's good to educate yourself on that. I do have a whole section on in the free course on the latest studies, so women can learn about it and then try to educate themselves before they go see their menopause specialist and talk about it. There's new non-hormonal drugs out there to help with hot flashes, which, by the way, we now know if you're still having hot flashes in postmenopause, that's not healthy for you.
Oh,
It can affect your heart health. So you definitely want to go to a doctor, a menopause specialist, and see what you need to do about that. In other words, it is not healthy to suffer in silence. It's not.
oh my gosh.
And yeah, and then we have, like I said, the urinary health that I spoke about. There is local estrogen therapy, which is localized in the vagina, that the Menopause Society recommends mostly all women over 60, 65 should be on it to keep everything healthy. And they recommend it to cancer survivors too. And so I want women to know that they have lots of options. I think that's the bottom line. And they need to learn about them. And then they go to the doctor and talk about them
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
each woman is different.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. So here's a question about hormone replacement therapy because I have cancer and it's I'm thriving with cancer, so that's the good news. But I was told, and I don't know if this is true, is because I have cancer, I can't take hormone replacement therapy. Is that true?
Well, if you go to a menopause specialist who's up on the latest science, I'm sure your
Mhm.
oncologist told you that, correct?
No, it was you didn't. It was a
Oh,
friend told me that because she
oh,
told me she was taking estrogen. She goes, "But you couldn't take it because you have cancer." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
okay.
Well, I wasn't looking at it, but I was just like, "That's news to me. I didn't know. I don't know anything about menopause."
Okay, yeah, exactly. So you need to go to a menopause specialist who will
Mhm.
review your case because that's not a blanket true. In other words,
Ah,
you had a different kind of cancer. It
yes.
was liver, correct?
It's a rare form of thyroid cancer. The
Oh,
reason why
thyroid.
it's rare is it's not in my thyroid. It's in
Yeah,
my liver.
yeah, that's what I read. It was in your liver. It wasn't a thyroid cancer. Yeah. So again, somebody up on the latest information and studies would evaluate that for you.
Yeah.
But the key for women to know is to get the biggest bang for your buck. You do want to go on it early because that
Mm.
helps with the prevention of heart disease and things like that. So, and a lot of women who don't go on hormones, which is totally fine, be sure you're getting your bone DEXA scan it done to make sure you're not osteopenia or osteoporosis because that goes, hormones go down, it affects your bones. So I don't know if you've had that done, but definitely need that. And yeah, no.
I'm laughing
I'm
because
seeing.
I no, because this is you've been a wealth of information because I literally just found that out 2 weeks ago that I should get a bone density test.
And you're
No one has
you're
told
60?
me.
And you're
Yeah.
60?
No
Yeah,
one
see
has
that?
mentioned it. I found out by some research I was doing, and I was like, "Oh, I should ask my doctor about this." This is crazy. I mean, ladies, you're seeing in real time someone who is uneducated about menopause, postmenopause, and look, I'm learning a wealth of information. We've only been on for 27 minutes, and I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah."
Yeah. Also, women post-menopause need to have a lot of protein. Don't eat, eating little amounts of food and not much protein is the worst thing for our bone health. And
Mm,
so also, I recently found out that are some studies about intermittent fasting for women. If women exercise without any food, it will not help them as well as men. Men can do that. Women really should have protein, high protein, and then work out. And that will allow them to create muscle mass. So, we are not small men. Somebody coined that, not me, and I love it. We are not small men. So, we need to learn about being what it's like to be a woman, and it's different. And sadly, we don't have a lot of studies on women's health. We're getting them now because women are pushing, and there are, a lot of companies now starting companies to research women and be there for women. It's huge. It's great. And so I think it's very exciting, but just have to know that they've studied a lot on men, but not much on us. So this is revolutionary right now, what's happening. So we have to keep demanding what we deserve.
Oh my gosh. You have been a wealth of information. This has been so great.
Oh,
And I love that this is your mission to empower and inspire women that are going through this because we don't know. We don't. And so you're doing amazing work and this has been great. So Ellen, can you tell the ladies how they can find you and tell them where they can find that free course?
yes, yes. Go to ellendolgen.com, and it's Dolgen, not spelled like the booze, Dolgen. And you will find a wealth of information, and it's all free. It's my give back to the sisterhood, and I interview the experts, and then I bring the information to you in girlfriend speak. So you can easily listen to the modules while you're driving or wherever you are, and it's not so technical that you get lost or overwhelmed. I have gotten great feedback from the course, and everything's there. The symptoms chart is there. Download that. If you have marks on it, take the course. Get yourself a menopause specialist. I'm also available if you need support. You can reach me through my website. And I have a gazillion blogs on a gazillion things, including, what's the best vibrator. I got it all.